Hi, my name is Molly Gazay, and you are listening to a Living Album Podcast, Episode 10, Ella Mora. Hello, Manic March peoples! I am so freaking excited that it is March. I love that it's starting to get warmer. I love that I can take my dog out on walks. I am so excited also because the song of the month is out. It is Manic, and already it has almost about 250 views. So thank you guys so much. I'm really excited. I was really excited to share it with you. And I got to share it with our guest for today. Their name is Ella Mora, and they are an amazing singer-songwriter that wrote a song called Apocalypse Love Song, and you're gonna get to hear a little clip of that as well. We talk about song structure, what we liked about each other's songs, and also about our producer, shout out to Craig Levy from Little Pioneer Cider House, and so much more. Please, if you like these episodes, go ahead and like and subscribe and like the more stuff, and go listen to Ella's song and go listen to my song. It's just an amazing way to spread the love. And with that, and without further ado, let's get to the episode.
So I loved this groove. Like, it made me want to move my body. Like, I was so excited about the rhythm and the production of it and the background vocals. Like, it just felt like it came together in a way that, yeah, was really catchy and really made me want to move, which I loved because I feel like when I'm feeling manic, like I have extra energy that I want to physically expel. So I really loved that. I really connected to that piece. I was super excited about the production. It felt to me like kind of like a darker pop sound, which I was really into.
Okay.
It was giving me like kind of early Demi Lovato before she went full like pop punk, which I was excited about.
Ooh.
You have such a great voice. Like, I can totally hear your technique, which is very exciting and always like so satisfying to hear. And yeah, I was just really excited about that like groove in the hook. It's just so catchy and like made me want to dance.
Hell yeah. No, I tend to write very dark stuff that doesn't always have like a dance thing to it. So I was so happy when you said the dance thing, because I was like, yes, that was what I wanted. I wanted that like manic energy to get up and like start moving. So I love hearing that.
Tick tock on the clock, it's moving all the time. Fall down, get up, shove your back into the line. Know your place, silly one. No one's gonna love you if you don't have any fun. Know your place, silly one. No one's gonna keep you if you can't be undone. I feel a little manic from all this freak panic.
I feel like this is a song that you put on when you've had a shitty day and you're ready to run it out at the gym and feel like kind of swaggy and a little dirty. And that I feel like is where I would feel it the most deeply. So that would be my pitch, is when you've had a shitty day and you're ready to do your stuff on the treadmill or do your thing on the Stairmaster, like put this song on and go for it.
I love that. I have done that actually with a few of my guests' music as well. And I'm like, just pump it out and go.
Yes.
It's so cool. And you know what I absolutely love about this too is that like you and I have actually never met in real life. Like, we have the same producer though, right?
Yeah.
So you've worked with Craig.
That's one of the reasons why I felt really drawn to this song, is the production was so exciting to me. And I would love to hear like a little bit more about your and Craig's process in finding that. Because I know that Craig works like differently with all kinds of different songwriters and musicians. And it's so different from what I've heard from our producer before. And so I was like, oh, this is so exciting. What a great opportunity to not only like dig into a great song with you, but also to learn more about like how y'all's collaboration is different.
Yeah. No, it's true. Like, Craig is like just a mastermind at like figuring out where somebody's like sound is and then just going with it.
Yes.
It's so cool. Yeah, no, he and I have been working together for like, I want to say 2 years.
Nice.
We've done like 20 plus songs together. Hence the podcast. Cause I was like, how am I going to release this album?
Yeah.
I'll do a podcast.
I love it.
Yeah, it's been really fun. And yeah, I just really appreciate him in so many different ways because he really does listen. And I come in and I'm like, okay, I have this song. It's called Manic. I was writing it. I've been writing it for like a month, and I probably like had a concept of the song for about a month, and then just put it all down in like 2 days. And which is not always my process, but I really want it to sound like you're manic. I really didn't want it to be like, I'm singing about being manic, but it really is that you're physically feeling it. So I use a lot of like, that feeling that you get when it's like this and this and this, and he'll play a bunch of sounds. And then I'm like, yeah, that's it. Or he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, well, okay, let's listen to another thing. And then we'll look and listen.
I
and
love it.
Go through the vibe. Is that how you guys tend to work together too? Or?
Yeah, I write like the words and the chords, and then I usually write the bass line and any any other lines in the song that are like violins or an oboe or anything like that. Every once in a while I'll have like an instrumentalist like solo on, and I won't write that. I'll just be like, feel it out and hear the adjectives that I give you for what I'm looking for. And so it's definitely, I think like a little bit more prescriptive. Like I go in being like, this is what's going to happen,
Yeah.
But I love hearing that like you like find it together, because that's definitely been my experience on like other songs and other projects. I loved the like ding sound in Manic. Is that a clock or a bell or?
Yeah. So the idea is that the concept is that like the clock, especially that line, like tick tock on the clock, it's moving all the time, is that like anxiety that, we feel like, I think I personally feel a lot of times as an artist. I'm like, I have to get it all done. I'm losing time. I'm getting older, and like, what's, and it's all, subjective stuff, but it's that anxiety, that drive to constantly like get everything done. And so I really wanted a sound, but I didn't want like a clock, like
yeah.
I really wanted like a father clock, or like a big booming sound. And so we went through a couple of different sounds. We listened to a couple of different takes on it, and that was the one that really stuck. And I think also really matched well with the background beats and everything.
Totally. I love that sound. It feels like such an important like punctuation mark. Like I feel like it punctuates each section in like such an important way.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad. And I really appreciate that, because I think sometimes like I want to get a little theatrical in my, because I don't have like a super big musical theater background, but I think my natural way that I am wants to be a little more theatrical and storytelling. So I get a little worried. I'm like, oh, is this going to be too theatrical? Like, are we getting into like Nutcracker territory with the dinging, or is it like, okay, cool, this is something I could listen to and feel like it's in the realm of singer-songwriter?
I totally hear that. Yeah, I have a musical theater background as well, and I feel like finding your voice and finding your writing style after spending a lot of time in musical theater, unless you're trying to write musical theater, can be really challenging, because being a singer-songwriter is so different. It's such a different mandate than being a musical theater performer. And so I understand that kind of tension of like feeling, just knowing how good it feels in your body to like be big and tell big stories, and having to sometimes like resist that and try and be a little smaller, because that can also be really satisfying too, like if you like allow yourself to like try both.
Yeah. And like that, it's a great thing that you mentioned that, because like a lot of my music before I wrote this song, this is a very, very new song, like within the last year. And a lot of my music previously, I was always like, I have to have a big belt in my music. I have to have that Idina Menzel note in my song, that's the climax. But as I was working with Craig, it's been nice because I started to write more music, or I started to write music for movies that I have friends who've created some TV pilots and some movies. And they've asked me to write music for, and I'm like, well, I can't do that because it's not about the voice necessarily. You want it to kind of like flow. So this was, I felt like with Manic, I felt like it was a very nice combination of like more grungy pop and then kind of still having those elements of like the bigness, but really keeping it in that rock grunge pop area.
For sure. I definitely heard that and felt that, particularly on the bridge. But I also want to say that like pop can be very theatrical. Like I just saw MJ on Broadway, and like Thriller, like that is musical theater, like
that's
really
a good point.
Really iconic like pop moments can be so theatrical. And like, so I feel like you have found a way to like use theatricality as like a tool to your own benefit, like, and something that you can like choose to like use for songs like this, when the feeling is so big and when you're moving people to like dance or move their bodies, then like some theatricality is like important.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And and like you say that, I'm like, oh, they made Alanis Morissette's music into a musical too. So
Cher, I mean, there's so many.
It's like, what is it? Juliet, and Juliet has like all that pop. Look at that.
Yeah, there you go.
I love that. And so like on that like musical theater thing, did you see like a scene playing out when you heard this song? Was there like a music video that came to mind?
Yeah, to me, like going back to the elevator pitch idea of like being on the treadmill and running at the gym, like to me, like this is like a chase. Like we are running, there are obstacles that we're moving through. And it's interesting what you said before about how like the inspiration for this song comes from that feeling of anxiety of like needing to accomplish everything and not having enough time to get everything done. And I feel like that really resonates for a lot of people, but particularly artists, because there's just always more that you can be doing. Like there's just always like more hustle, more grind that you could be doing. So I feel like it's like a running and a chasing moment. And I think like where there could be like some beauty or like a twist is like this idea that you start out like running towards something, but then eventually you feel like you're running away from your like insecurities or your like fear of not achieving, and you lose sight of actually what you're running towards. That's what I was seeing in my musical theater director brain.
I love that. I always love having directors come on because they're always like, yes, I saw this, and there's this whole story that's happening.
Yep. It's night. There's moments of choreography. Like, let's go.
Exactly. I love that. I have somebody who's coming on who's a dancer to review this song too. And I am really excited to hear all these different people talk about the song, because I have a director who's a horror film director who reviewed it.
Cool.
I have you as singer-songwriter who's reviewing it, and then I have a dancer. So this is going to be like an amazing montage of stuff. And I'm like, it fits perfectly into what my friend said, the director who's the horror film person. So I'm like, ooh, I'm liking these threads that people are making.
Yes, I could definitely see it in horror. I see it like for TV also in like a Euphoria, like a like gritty, like teen trauma vibes. And I feel like the like pop like elements, but also that like grungier like rock sound like kind of fit something that like has a lot of blues and purples and like navies and dark colors in it, you know?
Blues and purples. Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much for reviewing the song. Is there anything else that you wanted to say or ask questions before?
I would love to hear like a couple of artists that inspired this song. And if you had to get back in the studio and do a feature, get someone to feature on it, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. I just feel like a coughing fit. I got so excited about this question. Great question. And it's funny because I have that one on my list to ask you too. Gosh, who would I have if I got to redo the song? I feel like now that you said Demi Lovato, I feel like I'd want to have Demi Lovato on this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that would be really fun. Yeah, I'm just gonna go Demi Lovato. I think that'd be super fun. I think it'd be really cool to work with them and like just hang out and make music.
If New York was underwater and no calls could go through, then I'd paddle to your roof, pick you up in my canoe. If we have to watch the whole world go to shit, there's no one I'd rather go down swinging with. If we get a +1 to the
So I love this song. It's so great. And you have such like I'm glad that I know that you have a musical theater background, because when I was listening to it, I was like, man, this totally reminds me of Oates and Garfunkel, or Garfunkel and Oates.
Yeah.
I love them. Have you ever gotten that comparison?
Do you mean like Simon and Garfunkel and Hall and Oates, or are Oates and Garfunkel a different band?
Oh, no. Oates and Garfunkel are Garfunkel and Oates is a female duo group. And they had, I think they had a TV show for a little bit, and they did all these like really comedic and fun and dark songs, but it was all with I think you would love listening to them.
Okay, that's my homework. Thank you.
Yeah, yes. No, they're so good. And they're very comedic. They're very funny. They don't have the show anymore. They've kind of both branched off into doing different things. But man, oh man, they're freaking cool. So I would say that is because it's got that lightness in your voice, like that quality of like just such like an innocence almost.
Mm-hmm.
And which I was like, you could totally be on like a Disney, like in a Disney cartoon. I would totally.
Oh my God.
It's like, I want to hear like a dark Disney movie with your voice in it.
Thanks.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. They're super cool. 'Cause it is that like indie, very cool, singer-songwriter vibe. And you definitely have this quality that I used to hear a lot, as like in the Hotel Utah in San Francisco. It's like that was the vibe, like this song.
Yeah.
So it made me very nostalgic. I was like, oh, I love this. And yeah, I could totally see it actually like in something like Zombieland.
Hell yeah. That's what I want to hear.
I was like, and on that like light and innocent note, the context, yeah, I totally could see it in like Zombieland, or a comedy show that's either the song is like in a montage with two people saying like fuck it, or an actual zombie apocalypse movie like Love and Monsters or a Zombieland.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, because it's got like the content is just so great with like this exploration of this horrible thing that's happening in the world, and then it's got the contrast with the love. So it almost kind of feels like a character breakdown. It's like zombie apocalypse, falling in love.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you went to like the zombie place and the like like kind of horror place. I totally agree that it's like the song is very tongue in cheek and comedic. But the apocalypse that I like think of and that I describe in the song feels like an apocalypse that could happen like anytime due to like climate change or politics, or so it's interesting to hear that feedback of like you imagining kind of like these magical like ends, when the ends that I was feeling when I was writing it was like COVID, and like ways that it sometimes feels like our world is ending.
That was one of my questions, because I was really curious. I'm like, how much of this is conceptual versus the reality of the state of our planet? So you wrote this during COVID or after?
Well, I have a background in politics. I worked in politics for a few years. And so I've been like pretty plugged in to all of the ways the world can end.
Yeah.
That's like such a thing that people working in politics have to think about. So definitely parts of it are, based on like my own anxiety about climate, about our institutions failing, about the way that the way that politicians have failed so many people in this country. So a lot of it, I think, is rooted in like very real things that have happened, are happening, or will happen. But I kind of chose to, instead of lean into like the darkness of that, to kind of tongue in cheek create some levity and say, well, like, if we're going to have an apocalypse, which sometimes it feels like we're currently having an apocalypse, like,
yes,
let me bring you my plus one and it'll be okay. And it was a way to kind of like soothe myself and also center like love and relationships in times when you can feel kind of hopeless.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting because I've been talking with my partner about the opposite of cyberpunk, which is kind of what this now sounds like, which I think is called solar punk.
Cool.
Yeah. And so this song has a very like solar punk kind of vibe to it, without necessarily like the punk sound, but that, with your description of what you were talking about, that really reminds me of that movement. And it's been interesting because there's been such a movement for cyberpunk, which is very dark and gritty and void of hope, that this creation of solar punk was the opposite response for this darkness, and that maybe the world isn't going to be as terrible as all the politicians and everybody is, and that we could potentially see a brighter future. So
yeah, totally. I feel like that is so consistent with like how people have been responding to all kinds of art, like not just music.
Yeah.
I feel like we have seen, in the pandemic, that people at the height of the pandemic, people really, really responded to stuff that matched their grief. And then like as things started to open up, like people wanted to forget the collective trauma that we just went through and just enjoy and appreciate the moment. And I think about that a little bit with Lord's album, Solar Power. I feel like it came out at the wrong time. Like if it had come out when we were in more of that escapism, like looking for on the bright side moment, it would have maybe done a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I think about like Phoebe Bridgers' Punisher, like did incredibly well. Or was her second album called Punisher? I can't remember.
I don't know. I love her music, but I don't know that much.
Yeah, her second album, when it came out, like it came out at the height of the pandemic, and so much of it was about doom, and people were really feeling that way, and so they felt really heard and represented. But it makes me wonder, like, if something like that came out now, like, would it resonate with people the same way?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, because like I think we all tend to gravitate mostly towards negative responses, I think, psychologically. So I'm wondering if it were to come out today, would it be too much and everyone's like, I'm overloaded? Because I know for me, I've just gone straight back into comedy. I was like, and I'm like in dramas, like I just got cast in a political drama, did the horror film a little bit ago. But my natural response is to go into comedy, go back to UCB, go create characters that are not on this plane of existence, because it's too much. Like watching all these politics and all the things that we're not doing that we know we're supposed to do for this planet it's an overload. So that release valve has to be there, or else I feel manic. Feel a little crazy. And like this isn't the world I want to live in.
Yeah, I totally hear that. And I think that that's very human and very natural. I feel really excited about art that feels like escapism and fun and dance and movement, but also has like a whisper or a gesture of some of the more deep, sometimes more challenging ideas. I feel like Muna does that really well. Like their music is music you can dance to. It feels fun and upbeat, but then some of their lyrics are like actually really like heartbreaking. And I feel like that's where you're also going with Manic. Like Manic like feels like a really fun song to run to move to dance to. When the background vocals come in on the hook, it's like it just feels so good. And so I feel like it's an interesting way to create music, to bring people in based on the like vibe and the rhythm and how it makes them feel in their body, and then have them listen a little closer to the lyrics and realize, oh wow, this is like a little deeper than I thought.
Yeah, no, I love music that does that. I feel like Ellie Goulig does that with her lyrics. Like it's all very dance, but if you listen to some of her music, it's like, oh, that's dark. That is real dark. And I think I just heard Dua Lipa on a table talk recently with Billie Eilish and a bunch of other people, but she says that her music, to your point, is like crying disco music. So it's like, it's just like get on the dance floor and like freaking cry your eyes out.
That is so the mood for 2024. Let's do it.
It really is. I love it. Yeah, no, I mean, and going back to Apocalypse Love Song, like I would say, like, based on all of this conversation, like the pitch that I would give people to go and listen to your song, which I recommend everybody goes and does. If you want a quirky, upbeat song about going through a dark time with someone you love and making the best of the world that you're given and watching it all go to shit.
I love that.
And also solar punk. I thought it was so cool. And I don't know, like a music video for it, I felt like kind of like the pitch. It's like this cute couple with a very gory atmosphere. And I love songs and I love movies and TV shows that like deal with the juxtaposition of things. Like you have this really dark category and then you have this really light category, and that intertwining just, I think, makes the really sweet moments even sweeter and the really dark moments even darker. And I feel like this song could totally, with that music video, kind of intertwine this like really gory, horrific world with these two people that are just smitten with one another, who are like, you know what? We have to deal with all this stuff, but at least we have each other. And I do think it's a really wonderful reflection on the value of the thing that you do have that is really truly the value.
Yeah.
And so I think the song has such a deeper meaning to it, which is lovely, because like on the surface you're like, oh, it's wonderful and light, and it's wonderful and light, and then you get really down into the nitty gritty of it, and it's like, oh, at least that's my interpretation.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Like I can picture a music video with like a very beautiful rom-com couple going on dates and with a picnic basket, but then around them is like horrible, gruesome, and they're totally oblivious.
Oh yeah, I love it.
I feel like that's something that a lot of people can relate to after going through the pandemic. I mean, we're still in the pandemic, but at the height of the pandemic, I think like so many people lost so much and felt so isolated. And it was such a reminder that at the end of the day, like all we have is each other. And I think that was such a big lesson for so many people. And I feel really grateful to have learned that lesson. And so I'm glad that came through a little bit in this song. It
did. And like, so when did you write this song?
I wrote this song when I was falling in love with my fiance. So it was about like 2.5 years ago, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So during COVID then.
Yeah, it would have been like 2021.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, I feel like 2021 was like
we were still struggling.
Yeah, I was still in it. So the song has like so many cool lines. I love I think the thing that stuck out to me the most is the Canada line, where you're like, California's burning, New York is underwater, I think is what you'd said, or something like that. And then we're going to go to Canada, which is the safe space. Is that because you have a connection with Canada, or because to me, it reminded me of Handmaid's Tale, where they're like constantly trying to get to Canada for like the first however many seasons. So do you have like a deep connection with Canada, or is it just this concept because of the political, ecosystem that we live in?
Yeah. So I feel like a conversation that I have with a lot of people in my life is like, if things go really badly, like, where would you go? I'm queer and I'm non-binary, and I'm very much, connected to the trans community. And so obviously there have been a lot of really horrible anti-trans legislation in the past few years. And a lot of trans people, particularly in the South, have felt really, really scared and really unsafe. And so it's like a very real question that people are asking themselves, like, where am I safe to live? And Canada does come up as an option for some people. I feel really lucky to live in New York City, and I feel, as safe as I can be politically, I guess, in this moment. But it's definitely a conversation that I have had with people in my community, and Canada has come up.
Yeah, no, I hear you with that. I have a sister who's trans, and I'm pansexual, and it's a conversation when we, and fortunately my sister lives in California, so I feel very happy about that. But it is a scary thought. It's like, where is your safe haven? Like, where are you going to go? So yeah, no, I thought it was I know it's like such a small part of the song, but it felt really impactful. So I was like, oh, I love this. And then, so we're coming up to kind of like the end of the podcast. So I would love to know, is there anything that you've learned as a musician, singer-songwriter, that you really wish you had known at the beginning of your journey? And is there anything else that you think someone who is struggling right now with figuring out where they want to go with their creations, is there anything that you can provide them with, any knowledge that you have?
Yeah. So I feel like I could probably go on a whole tangent about technical stuff and how to distribute and, getting placed on playlists and like that whole thing. But I think like actually what would have been more useful to me is that I needed to just start, just do it. And I feel like I had such imposter syndrome, and I got in my own way a little bit. And didn't feel confident that I could write and make and record the things that I wanted to. But you have to just start, and you'll learn so much from your first go, and then you'll only get better and better and better. And so I feel like that is my biggest piece of advice to people. Ira Glass has this great quote about, when you start making things, the things that you make might not quite match with your taste yet, but you have to keep going, and you have to keep making stuff, because you'll get better and better and better. And then one day it will match with your taste, and then you'll be producing something really amazing. And I felt like I was so scared of that period of time where the stuff I was making wouldn't match my taste yet, where I wasn't quite good enough, that I got in my own way a little bit. And so my biggest piece of advice is to just start making things.
I love that. Start and continue to do it, right?
Yes.
Like that consistency.
Yes. Just keep doing it.
Yeah, I love that. Because like the technical stuff is very important in terms of like getting people to listen and all that. But yeah, there is this sense of imposter syndrome I feel like a lot of creatives end up having. And it's like, and also the consistency. I know for me, I started this podcast twice. And it's only now that I'm finally getting it out, because I would listen to myself on the podcast and go, oh God, no one wants to hear me talk. Like, why am I doing this? What value do I have? And then the more I did it, because I kept forcing myself to do it, the more I realized, oh, here's the value. The value is in the conversations I'm having with the people, the things that I learn through the conversations and the interactions with the people that are coming on, people I've never met before, but have a connection with.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think it's wonderful advice. And I have the question to ask you. So if you could have anybody on Apocalypse Love Song sing this with you as a duet or, collab, who would you have?
So I feel like the very like natural answer would be like an indie folk girly because that's kind of the vibe of the song. But I feel so excited by Noah Kahn and like had Post Malone sing with him on one of his songs. And it was just like genre bendy and it added a whole nother layer to bring someone who's definitely not in the indie folk world into it. And so I think that it would be really, really cool to get like a remix of this song that makes it like an EDM dance floor house explosion. So that's what I would want to do, maybe from Sophie Tucker or Essa.
I love that.
Get a little like house music crying on the dance floor moment, because we have now decided that is the theme of 2024.
Yes, it is. Dua Lipa got it right.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So cool to hear that, because like my brain just went like into a million different places with it. There's a great song on the soundtrack for Sense8, the TV show, and it's such a good show.
A beautiful show.
It's I consider it like emotional political TV. Like, I feel like it's so good. But there's a song on the soundtrack that I listen to all the time, and it's a ukulele. And I think it's called When You're Dancing. And it starts out very soft, kind of like the way that you have it, and then it goes straight into what you're talking about with that dance floor music sound. And I'm like, yeah, that's the vibe.
Yeah, let's go.
Vibe. I love it. All right. Well, we are nearing the end, so I always want to close out every episode, if I can, with a question about, for those who are struggling, or whenever you're feeling sad or feeling hopeful or feeling anything, what is a song or a lyric that you go to that inspires you or makes you feel like you're less alone?
So there's a singer-songwriter out of Vancouver, Canada, called Haley Blay that I love. And she has a song called Reset Button. Ooh. And she has a lyric that is, I'm not afraid of taking chances. I think failure is romantic. And I love that line because I think it's such a good reframe to help us not be scared to swing big.
I love that. That's such a great line. Oh, and I'm going to go listen to that song.
Yes, you got it. Haley Blay's the best.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with us here on A Living Album Podcast. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm so excited to hear your music and more of your music. I've already been stalking a lot of it. Is there any shows that you have coming up that you want to let people know about in March?
Not at the moment, but I will have new music out later this year. So more to come.
Well, then everyone go check out Ella. This has been a wonderful chat. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Molly. This was awesome. Really appreciate you having me on. And I love to meet another person in Craig's family. It's so, so great to connect.
I agree. Little Pioneer Cider House, guys.
Major shout out.
Major shout out to Craig.
I feel a little manic.